Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet an award-winning journalist and TV anchor. She has an amazing career. You'll hear about it next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, as you saw in that open, I spent 25 years in TV news, and I have so much respect for the people who are on the front line still doing that job of journalism with a capital J, and that includes my next guest. Del Irani is in the studio. She's an award-winning journalist, TV anchor, and my friend. Thanks for coming on the show.
Jeff, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, you have a very glamorous career. I want you to kind of like hit some of the highlights because you've worked for national news organizations.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, I've had the privilege of working in many different countries. I started my career off actually in India when I was working for a national news channel over there called Times Now. It was a local Indian news channel. That's how I got my foot in the door. And then from there, really lucky enough to work for BBC World News in India, returned to Australia, which is where I'm from, where I grew up, and spent, a good part of my career in Australia for the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. And now I find myself here in the United States, lucky enough to report on US news for an international audience with NHK World Japan. So I think it's easy to say that I am a bit of an international journalist, and I bring a big kind of international perspective to journalism.
Well, I love your accent. It's so.
I love your accent.
It's so sophisticated. So let's talk about the very beginning. What was your first journalism job?
It was very unconventional. So I graduated from University of California, Berkeley. I did my senior year here, and I just did not want to go back to Australia because I wanted to explore the world. So I got this kind of job with an obscure media firm that kind of we traveled the world. I was in Bermuda and Panama, and we were developing TV shows, producing them, but we were also kind of selling advertising along that. But a lot of the times I would find myself at these big press conferences, and I was one of the few people who would stand up, and I always had questions. I was always standing up and asking kind of the more challenging questions. And other journalists would come up to me and be like, oh, so, are you a journalist? What do you do? And that was the first kind of sign or the message. Because, frankly, my parents are Indian. I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be a journalist. I grew up being like lawyer, doctor. For me, it was like corporate world, marketing, psychology. So being a journalist was kind of a little bit left of center, but I really feel it is my calling. So.
Wow. And your parents have to be so proud.
I hope so. I think so. It took a bit of time to convince them, Once you start actually making money and you get the breaks, yes, yeah. I hope so.
I can see why. Well, she's such an amazing journalist. I'm going to show you her highlight reel.
I'm Del Irani. It's great to have your company.
Now stay with us because there's plenty coming up on this very busy news morning.
Good morning. It is Thursday, the 1st of June. I'm Del Irani, and welcome to the special early edition of News Breakfast. Andrew Leoncelli, who was one of the witnesses on board that plane. Michael Rowland joins us now from Melbourne Airport. Now, Wall Street's wild week continues. In the last hour, the Dow has dropped more than 1,000 points. But she seems like she's kicking some serious butt in there as well, which I kind of like. So I want to ask you, how have you coped with the pandemic this year?
My wife hasn't left me yet. That's saying a lot. That's saying a lot.
So Cheryl, what do you make of President Biden's decision to withdraw troops from Afghanistan by September this year? And so what happens when the Chinese space station is the only one out there? What does that mean for space exploration for other countries? One of the things that we've noticed recently is that there has been an increase in the number of cases, the number of appeals at a state level to restrict abortion in the US What do you think has been behind this trend? Why has there been so much sort of a push and a momentum?
Thousands of protesters have gathered here today. They're on a march from one end of the city to another. Now, some of them are political parties, but most of them are residents of Asia's largest slum, Dharavi.
I did manage to get my hands on one of the few newspapers that is available today.
Earlier today, there was the counting of votes of the Indonesians here in Victoria that took part and voted in the election, and those results are out, and it's official.
I worked for BBC World News. I was the correspondent presenter in India, and I used to present a show called India Business Report. Now, the advantage of that is I'm used to presenting from outside, and I love it.
Swadina Safio is also one of the best known and most talked about people in Malaysia, and she's taken time out of her busy schedule to talk to us today. Where they get all those brilliant ideas from? Well, we think we might have found one of those places. It looks like the party is going to be going on for a little while.
Absolutely.
I'm Della Rani. Thanks for your company. I'll catch you next time.
Wow, so impressed. We were visiting before the show, and you told me that you got to cover one of the biggest stories of your lifetime. Will you share that with us?
Yes. So for me, the real turning point in my career was when I was in India, and I happened to be there during what was India's equivalent of 9/11. So this was November 26, 2008. It was the Mumbai terror attacks, and I was actually in, an Indian newsroom. And I remember clearly the day the phone started ringing. It was about 6 p.m. First, we just got calls that there were some shots, some sort of commotion downtown. We, didn't think much of it. And then sure enough, that escalated into, the hostages being held at some of the downtown hotels, 3 days of a siege on Mumbai city. And it was really a defining moment in my career, just because it was breaking news. It was such an important moment in India's history. And I was fortunate enough that about a year later, I was working for the BBC, and I actually got to cover the trial of the lone surviving gunman of those attacks. And so I think, that's a memory that just really, really stays with me, because I met and I interviewed so many of the families that were affected by the terror attacks. And it really shaped who I am as a journalist, like all the things that were instilled in me in terms of like fact finding and just in breaking news, how to stay cool, how to maintain your pressure, and how just telling the story of the people that are affected by it and telling their truth. So those are things that I think have really, shaped me as a journalist.
Let's talk about your passion for storytelling, because, I see you're in the field, you're on the anchor desk. It's all storytelling. What is it about telling a wonderful story that excites you?
Honestly, I really take great passion and great joy in telling other people's stories. So to be very honest, Jeff, to sit here and talk about myself is mortifying. I don't know if you can relate to that. I mean, you're a journalist as well, right? We're kind of not used to the spotlight being on us. And we're kind of a beacon of, we should be a beacon of light for other people, for other stories. And that's what really drives my passion. And I'm more often than not, I don't know if this makes me a good journalist or not, but I'm very moved by people's stories. Sure. So like I said, I still carry a lot of the stories from the field of Mumbai and the people affected by the attacks. But then there have also been joyous stories, people who've overcome great difficulty, great triumph. So, there's it's such a delight. I think it's such a privilege to be a journalist and to get that opportunity. And then like going into that house of people every night, for me in the breakfast show and the ABC in the mornings, to be hopefully among the first people they see in the morning and give them the news, I just think is a huge honor.
Wow, I know why you're so successful. She's also a very talented speaker and MC. We're going to show some video, and I have to applaud you because I know that the discipline that it takes to talk to a TV camera and speaking to a live audience is completely different. How did you learn to become a really good speaker?
For me, the skills of being a journalist translate really well to being an MC, because as most journalists, you do your research. You really you're pretty good at writing. If you've written a lot of TV scripts, so when you have that, you're going to write an MC script. And I think, you would know this really well because you made the switch from journalism to PR. When you're working with corporate clients, you also really fully understand kind of what their need is and how to get the message across. So I think these are the elements that, when I'm preparing to MC an event, I'm more often than not researching my client as I would a news story, writing a script, but writing a script that I know will relate to the audience, because I'm always talking to them. You are my people. I'm here for you. And I love the energy of the stage. Don't you love it? The live audience and
the feedback,
the interaction.
People would always ask me, don't you get nervous talking to 150,000 people? I said, I don't see them when I'm looking at a TV camera, but a room of 30 would freak me out. Until I learned how to speak. And just, I think you'll agree, there's something about the ability to speak transcends all areas of your life.
And you know what's really lovely about doing live events is you pick up on the energy of people. And so that event that you saw, one of the speakers, best speakers I've ever seen, and I've seen quite a few, that came on that stage towards the end was Magic Johnson.
Oh, no kidding.
And now that, ladies and gentlemen, was a masterclass as an MC.
Yes.
It was a masterclass in how to really just control an audience. This is a man that, we had a seat set for him next to me on the stage. So first of all, much to my horror, but I was prepared for it, is he just ignored all the rules and just walked straight into the audience. But the people loved him. He was there for the people. He was not there for me.
That's cool.
So, breaking the rules sometimes can actually make a difference. And he was high-fiving people. And I just think he was such a fantastic speaker. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're freelance now, so you can actually go out and do some MC work and presentations.
Yes.
So we only have a couple minutes left, so maybe look into the camera on the left and talk to that CEO or association executive who might need a solid MC.
Absolutely. If you're looking for a great MC, moderator, or someone to, host some corporate videos, or even train some of your executives on how to be a better speaker and get their message across, please feel free to contact me. It's been such a privilege to be on the Jeff Crilley Show and to talk a little bit about my experience. More than happy to share it. I think there's a lot of skills and experience that translate really well into the corporate world, and I have had clients that have had a lot of success with it. So would love the opportunity to work with you.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us. We're going to end with her website so you can get in touch with her, DelIrani.com. The great Del Irani. Thanks for coming on the show.
The great Jeff Crilley. Thank you for having me.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.